Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you, whether you're listening on Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, or you're streaming the show on those two stations' streaming apps, which are free to download and free to use. And you can listen to this or any of the shows you enjoy on Extra Sports 1300 or KVOR in crystal clear streaming audio. And you'll be able to hear me for basically the next 6 hours. That is a warning. This show followed by a midweek clash between Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC and Spokane Velocity, the quarterfinals of the USL Cup. Our coverage begins at 6:30. So you'll get a little bit of a break from me, and then it'll be me again at 6:30. As far as this show is concerned, you know the deal. It will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics. And you also know the deal that I love hearing from you. And if you want to call or text the show, you could do it at 719-247-1313. Or you could reach out via social media. I am at Gingerly Tweets on X and at Gingerwatch on the gram, as the kids say. Let's get started here. I have to ask the question, what's going on with Sean Payton? I just want to do like a wellness check on Sean Payton, because a couple of weeks ago, we saw him getting emotional in FaceTiming Drew Brees. By the way, something he's never done before. He's never FaceTimed in his life. And Drew Brees FaceTimed him, and we saw Sean Payton get emotional when Brees asked him to present him at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Okay. Can see that. But now he's taking the team to go see Spider-Man? Here's Sean Payton on the night out with the boys.
I mentioned it this weekend to a few former players, and they accused me of getting soft. It's not like we changed a practice or anything. We just had a diversion, if you will. So it was good. The experience was good.
For the record, Sean Payton, not a big Spider-Man guy. But you could tell he's like bristling at the idea. Like, he takes his team to go see a movie, just a team night out, and everyone's making a huge deal of it and wondering what's happened to him. And you could tell he's getting upset about it. But it doesn't stop there, because clearly even his current players are wondering what's going on with Sean Payton. Here's Nick Benito on seeing Spider-Man.
Oh, no, I was happy but surprised at the same time. I mean, Sean ain't never did nothing like that. So, I mean, he's starting to take a liking to us for sure. So.
What is going on with Sean Payton? The guy who ruined Russell Wilson's career by cutting him and benching him. The cruel individual who did that. And jettisoned Justin Simmons and had this bloodbath when he joined the Denver Broncos looking to clean house. What happened to that Sean Payton? For that matter, what happened to Sean Payton that likes to make huge, defiant claims about his team, calling out the Chiefs after their loss to the Bills in the playoffs? Like, where's this Sean Payton's different? Where did this Sean Payton come from? And, oh, by the way, not to put this too far down on the list, this might be the top. The guy has given up play calling duties for the first time in his life. What is going on with Sean Payton? I will tell you. It's that line from Moneyball that Brad Pitt says, adapt or die. Here's the fact of the matter right now in the NFL. The head coaching position is getting turned over more regularly than it ever has in NFL history. And the coaches that are getting these jobs are younger and younger and younger. And it's because of their progressive mind, not just in terms of, play calling and the way they go about things, but also the way they interact with players. Right? It's not, the lines are being blurred now as far as the coach. Is he truly this authority figure in the way that we looked at coaches when we were younger? Or is it more of a colleague type of thing, a manager thing? Yes, there is a hierarchy, but you don't speak to your manager and converse with them and interact with them the same way that you would your boss, right? This is Sean Payton evolving. This is Sean Payton saying, this is a young man's game, but I don't want to get out of this game yet. So how do I have staying power? How do I stay in it? I evolve. I adapt. I take my team to go see Spider-Man. And you may look at that and say, this is silly. And there's an aspect of this which is silly. If it would have been the Odyssey, would it be viewed differently? If it was the Odyssey, it would be Sean Payton trying to bring out the warrior spirit in his team. But because it's Spider-Man, it's kind of a punchline and a joke. I think it's the same thing here. And the title of the movie does not matter. Which, by the way, many adults are into Marvel. Like, we grew up with this stuff. So we go and see these movies. It's not little kid stuff anymore. And that's a self-serving statement because I still go to the superhero movies. And I would go if I didn't have my sons. So I'll defend that. I'll defend grown men going to go see Spider-Man. And by the way, it was fantastic. But the title of the movie doesn't matter. It's about relatability. Right? It's about the team camaraderie. It's about trying to put yourself on the same level as your team. These guys are making more and more money. They're all the CEOs of their own personal business, their own personal brand. They have more power than they ever have before. This is not that Sean Payton has to cower in fear. And yes, sir, all of the players on the team, there's still a hierarchy. There's still a separation of powers here. But we're seeing this in all sports, that it's about relating to the players, meeting the players where they are more than the days of Lombardi and Chuck Noll. And there's no more stark place where you see this than in college sports. Like, you want to talk that's where things are going crazy. The turnover, think of the number of big name coaches that we have lost in college football, in college basketball, because they're like, I can't function in this world. Nick Saban, I can't exist in this world. I have to go. Now, that's a microwave. College athletics is a microwave for this. It's all happening so fast, and the turnover and all this kind of stuff is exponential compared to other sports. But even in professional sports, you're seeing this. A lot of people call it the McVay effect, right? When the Rams found Sean McVay, now everybody is trying to bet on a guy maybe a year too early, then be behind a year too late and getting a retread and trying to catch a guy on his second opportunity. So this is Sean Payton adapting. This is Sean Payton giving the keys to a more progressive mind, a younger thinker in Davis Webb, and saying, why don't you try this? And he said this with Kay Adams the other day. It was actually the perfect analogy. He was talking about the driver's ed teacher that sits in the other seat but has control, has a break, right? Like, he's going to be there right with Davis Webb, And if he needs to slam on the brakes, he's going to. But he's letting Davis Webb drive the car. And he's more zooming out, looking at things big picture. Part of it is because the stage the Broncos are at right now, it's little incremental improvements across the board that are going to make the difference between this team, regressing or taking a step further and going to the Super Bowl. But it's that, and it's also something I've talked about during this training camp. There's not a lot of bluster from Sean Payton. There's not a lot of lofty rhetoric. It's not about this team believing. It's not about instilling a culture anymore. The culture exists. It's there. So those walls can come down a little bit. Like there's respect there, mutual respect. To Nick Bonito, he likes us now, and that was a joke, but there's some truth to that. He respects them and feels like they've earned a night out, and it's team bonding and all of that kind of stuff. But it's the evolution. These guys, Andy Reid is another one. You just have to evolve. And if you still have the desire to coach as Andy Reid does, as Sean Payton does, Jim Harbaugh, being some of the older coaches in the league, you got to find a way to relate better to your players, to be able to still have that, progressive thinking, younger thinking in your organization while still having the reins. So I think this is all good from Sean Payton. I think this is all necessary, all natural to do this. But one thing I will say is where you are as a team it's very important. Whether you are your team's buddy or you're the taskmaster, the stick and carrot, all of that kind of stuff. It very much matters where your team is. The Broncos they've already demonstrated that they are capable of going deep in the playoffs. Okay, so they're at a stage now where it could be a little bit more carrot than stick. But it's like when Sean Payton bristled at everyone talking about him taking the team to go see Spider-Man. Like the old Sean Payton kind of coming out there. Like, I'm still, like, it can all be taken away. It could all revert back to what you expect me to be if this is going to be the line of questioning, or if the players aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, if they're not holding up their end of the bargain. That old Sean Payton will come out fast. So he's not, the old Sean Payton is all the way gone. He's under the surface, waiting, lurking, if something goes sideways with this Broncos team. But I'll tell you, even some of the most veteran groups, even some of the most accomplished groups, depending on where in the life cycle of the team they're at, they need more stick than carrot. I'll take you elsewhere in the AFC West. I'll take you to Kansas City. You would think that there's no other franchise in the NFL where everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing. They do it. Andy Reid can be everybody's buddy, and it seemed that way for years, that when they were winning, Andy Reid was everybody's buddy and all of this kind of stuff. And now, because the Chiefs have fallen down a little bit, back in comes Eric Bieniemy, and Travis Kelce is saying they need what he brings to the table.
One, you got intensity. Intensity is the first thing, and that intensity is infectious. It makes you want to scream mother at everybody doing the wrong thing, and I love that. It's one of my favorite things about him. I don't think there's enough of that in the world, let alone in this building. And I think EB's one of those guys where his accountability is going to piss you off, but if you treat it the right way and you act the right way, respond the right way with it, you're going to become better of it, and it's going to make the team a better team because of it. And it's one of those things that I think we really missed here in Kansas City.
And I would agree. Everyone in Kansas City with their success got, as the saying goes, fat and happy. And the accountability kind of went away. Guys were fixed into their positions. There was job security. And now that they've started on a downward trajectory, it's like, how do you get that back? Well, you kind of start from the beginning. You start from building up. And when you're building up, and we saw this with Sean Payton when he first took over the Denver Broncos, it's uncomfortable conversations. It's a lot about accountability. It's more stick than carrot. But when you reach a certain point, you can lay off a little bit because the team has received the message. The culture is what you want it to be. And that's when you can go and take your teammates out or your team out to go see Spider-Man. 719-247-1313. Just getting going on this edition of Drive Time Sports. Coming up next, the big national story of the day. What's going on with one of the proudest franchises in all of sport? So quite the story in the National Basketball Association today. Is there any sport right now that just has more negative around it than basketball? And operative word, I didn't say the NBA. I said basketball. Is there any sport right now that has more negative in the news cycle than basketball? Between the NBA and the WNBA, it just feels like it's all bad. Unless you're a Sixers fan, everything else, it's all bad. If you're a general basketball fan, bad. And if you're a Laker fan, I don't think today is a celebratory moment. I think this is more bad, but what it means long term is what's interesting, and I don't think that'll be a negative. But the story itself today, if you haven't seen it, is that Mark Walter, who 10 months ago bought the LA Lakers for a record $10 billion, has now turned around and sold the Lakers. He has flipped the Los Angeles Lakers like they're a fixer-upper. And he's sold them to former Disney CEO Bob Iger and Josh Kushner. You probably know his brother quite well, Jared, married to Ivanka. So those are going to be the two new owners of the LA Lakers. And so that's why today this is bad. Because you have a guy taking one of the most storied franchises in all of sport and flipping them. And it gives off the vibe of an organization in disarray. Here's where I will push back against that. Even though it does look that way, the disarray is with Mark Walter. That's where the disarray is, because this guy's under investigation for fraud. And so moving on this is something that he needed to do because he screwed up, allegedly, not because anything that the Lakers did wrong. But Ramona Shelburne had a statement from Mark Walter, and it's comedic almost. Owning the Los Angeles Lakers has been one of the great honors of my life. It lasted 10 months, Mark. An extraordinary investment. That's not the way we want people to talk about our teams. But what I will carry with me is the community, the fans, and a city that treats this team as family. Now we're back on the rails here with this statement. I am grateful to Jeannie Buss, the Buss family, the players, and the staff for welcoming me into this chapter. The Lakers belong to Los Angeles, and I have every confidence the best is still ahead. And I think that sentiment can ring true. It's interesting because Bob Iger, I'm very familiar with. The other Kushner, I'm not. Seems like this guy's venture capital, private equity type of dude. So I don't think that's great, but it's like the brain and the financial brawn being paired together. I think this could be good for the LA Lakers. But then again, I thought Mark Walter would be good for the LA Lakers, because the Lakers, despite being a dynasty, despite being one of the most recognizable brands in sports, was a mom and pop operation. Right? And the minute that Jerry Buss turned it over to Jeannie and his kids is when the Lakers started to go down. And you know how I feel about scions, right? I think the apple sometimes falls too far from the tree. And that's what I thought was so weird about the reaction to LeBron leaving LA. It's like, where would the Lakers have been if LeBron didn't choose to go there? They were a mess. But with eyes beyond, the LeBron era, Mark Walter coming in, it's like, okay, now the Lakers are going to be run like the prestigious franchise that they are. Right? They're going to get an unlimited, a blank check to be able to do whatever they need to do to make themselves a world-class organization. And I don't know if you could affix that title to the Lakers if you popped open the hood and looked under it. I don't know that it was run like a world-class organization in terms of resources, in terms of the money being spent to do whatever the team needs to do in order to win. So with Mark Walter, I thought that gave them that opportunity. I think that opportunity still exists with Bob Iger and Josh Kushner. So today, it doesn't look great. It looks like the Lakers were flipped. It looks like they were a short-term play, and they're being shorted. But when you dig deeper into the story, you're like, oh, Mark Walter has some problems. And don't think for a second that just because he hasn't sold the Dodgers, that conversation's not coming up. His stake in the Dodgers might be, in a state of flux. It's just that the NBA is a little bit more sensitive to these things, especially right now when Matt Ishbia is tanking his company to finance the Phoenix Suns, and you have everything happen with Steve Ballmer, and it's not that long ago. We all remember Donald Sterling. The NBA is a little bit more sensitive to this stuff than Major League Baseball is. Major League Baseball in general moves more glacially towards progress and making decisions. But I wouldn't be shocked if Mark Walter has to sell his stake in the Dodgers too. But I think long-term, it's still the same idea. I always worry about these finance bros coming into professional sports. And I really believe that private equity helped lead Jaylen Brown to the Philadelphia 76ers. I truly believe that was a part of it. But that's only one half of the equation. Right? Bob Iger, a visionary, being one of the owners, I think if you're a Laker fan, that's interesting. And they both have incredibly deep pockets. And all the things that Mark Walter was supposedly going to do, I think they have a chance to still do with these two in charge. But it's very bizarre what's going on with the LA Lakers. And then you got them this year in a year of transition, right? LeBron is gone. It's now truly Luka's team. We're always looking forward to this being Luka's team ever since the trade. We knew this was the direction they were going, but LeBron was still there. And LeBron casts a long shadow and sucks up all the air in the room. Well, now it is truly Luka's team. And I found it interesting today that Luka took to social media. Normally not a chatty guy, not super eloquent. Some of that is, him not being from the U.S., so I don't begrudge him that. But not a big talker, Luka. But this tweet I found interesting. Being a Laker means everything to me, and I'm excited to get back on the court and bring a championship to LA. I've gotten used to big changes over these last few years, but I know that no matter what, there's no limit to the potential of this iconic franchise. I look forward to meeting Josh and Bob so we can get to work building something special in LA together. I don't know that Luka 3 to 5 years ago feels like he should put out something like that, to speak in that way. But I go back to my initial thought when the trade went down. Like, my bigger issue with the Luka trade was always what Dallas got in return or did not get in return. The fact of the matter is Luka doesn't play defense. The fact of the matter was Luka was routinely overweight. So some of what Nico Harrison was thinking, I can see it. I understand it. The problem is if you're going to trade somebody like Luka, you better fleece the team that you're trading him to, and they didn't do that. That was the bigger issue. But I said as this goes forward, and it's more complicated now because Cooper Flagg is in Dallas, if they hadn't have gotten the first number one pick, then I would be very confident in this. And I have my thoughts and beliefs on Dallas having Cooper Flagg and how that all came about. But I don't have my tinfoil hat on, so I won't go any further. But the other thing that I said is as time goes on, it's going to actually look worse because the Lakers are now going to get the best version of Luka Doncic. As special as he was before, as a basketball player, he had his shortcomings. But everything, the weight, the defense, the leadership, all of this stuff that maybe Dallas had some reservations about, Luka was going to, it's funny, Luka would in many ways become the player that Dallas wanted him to be in LA. Because the fuel, the motivation, the shock of it all, he alluded to it. You know, I've gotten used to big changes. I think Luka has done a great job of taking the reins of this team, with it being his team. He's flying his teammates out to work out with him over in Europe. Like, this dude is blossoming into a team spokesman, a star, and he was a star in Dallas because of the way he played, but it wasn't this. I don't know how much of a leader he was. So I think it's going to be good. It's not going to be perfect, but I think long-term it's going to be good for LA. In the short term, all of this it's not great, right? The moves that the Lakers have made on the court post LeBron, I love it. I think Walker Kessler was a fine acquisition. I would be a little bit worried about their investment in Austin Reeves moving forward. I don't love the basketball team on the court, but they're just getting started. It seems like they're an organization in disarray when they're flipped 10 months after a guy bought them. But I think long-term this could still turn out okay for the LA Lakers, but bizarre. And in an offseason that has been much about the owners of the NBA teams. Adam Silver, dude, you got to get a grip on your owners. You got to get a grip on the WNBA. You just got to get a grip, dude. You are losing control of this league. You got some interesting folks, some shady characters that are involved. You got a league where it's the furthest thing that anybody wants to talk about is actual basketball. Like, Adam Silver, dude, you are figure it out. Vet these guys a little bit. It was 10 months. This happened in 10 months. Matt Ishbia nearly bankrupted his company. Steve Ballmer circumventing the salary cap. Like, do your homework on these guys a little bit, huh? 719-24-7. 13-13. Coming up next, back to the Broncos in the NFL. The first depth chart has been released. Is Bo Nix truly the number one quarterback? That and other questions that really don't need to be asked next. Looking for some family fun before the kids head back to school. Mine went back to school today. First days of school are all over the place, but if you have some time to take the family out, maybe one last time before we really get in the thick of the school year, may I suggest our Sweet Deals program, extrasports1300.com, kvor.com. You can give your family fun experiences like Overdrive Raceway, Bogies and Brews, Golf Simulator, U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Museum, one of my personal favorites. And you could get it at a discounted price, 50% off or more. So go to extrasports1300.com or kvor.com and check out Sweet Deals. Lakers flipped by Mark Walter in the span of 10 months. He bought them for $10 billion. He sold them for 12 and a half. Aaron texts in $2 billion in a year. $2.5 billion in a year, Aaron. Which just, it goes to show, like, there is just no, like, Mark Cuban, when he said the pigs get slaughtered thing about the NFL, you know how many years ago that was? You see that the Seahawks just sold for $10 billion, how much the Broncos went for. Like, I like Mark Cuban, but that was one of the dumbest things he's ever said, because every year that goes by, it looks more and more ridiculous because these franchise valuations keep going up and up and up. And I don't think there's any investment on planet Earth that's better and more lucrative than owning a pro sports franchise. Now, did Bob Iger and Josh Kushner overpay a little bit? The reports I'm hearing is they were trying to make a Godfather type offer to Mark Walter. But there's no way they were going to take it off of his hands for less than he paid. Probably not the same amount as he paid. So maybe fair valuation was 11 and a half. But these franchise values, they're skyrocketing. There's no better investment than a pro sports franchise in America. It's crazy. And I'm giving Mark Cuban a little bit of flack here, but I see why he, when said that. And it's not just about franchise valuations. He was talking about a lot of things, but these pigs just keep getting fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter. And I mean that in a nice way. I'm not remarking on anybody's weight. I'm talking about you get it. It just keeps going up. Sell it. Today, the Cowboys were the most valuable franchise in sports. $15 billion they're worth. Which means it's probably going to be close to 20 if someone can convince Jerry Jones to sell. The valuation is like a low estimate. That's what it's worth. What can you get for it? More than that. It's crazy. It absolutely is. But it feeds into the craziness of this story and why it has to be regarding the legal trouble that Mark Walter is in. Because buying a franchise is a long-term play. Right? You want to own that. Some people want to own it for generations. Some people want to own it until they're, old and tired of it, and then they'll turn around and make bank selling it. But it's a long-term investment. It's not 10 months and you flip it. I don't think Mark Walter is going to lead to this trend of everybody buying a team and then 10 months later flipping it. Because Mark Walter gets $12.5 billion. He makes a $2.5 billion profit in 10 months. Imagine what it would be in a decade. So this is absolutely about the legal troubles that he's facing. So he either needs cash or he needs to get out of the public eye or something. But you get these things for the long term. You don't get them to flip, which is bad news for fans of the Portland Trailblazers, because they were hoping that upon this news today with Mark Walter, they were hoping maybe Tom Dundon is going to turn around and flip the Blazers to somebody else within 10 months and get out of Portland. I don't think so. I think he's in it for the long haul. But trust me, it's not. This isn't Mark Walters making a quick buck. This is Mark Walters in a heap of trouble, and he needs to do something about that. I know this is the moment you've all been waiting for. The first unofficial depth chart of the season. What makes it unofficial? Is it because they don't have a regular season game this week? I mean, they do have a game. But very quick, the Broncos were to point out this is unofficial. Okay. With that being said, there is not one single surprise on this entire thing. Not one. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is, let's be honest, most of the jobs on the Denver Broncos, because we're not looking at, I mean, maybe you are, but I'm not looking at the third and fourth stringers at every position. Right? And who's at the top of the depth chart is what most people care about. This is a veteran group. This is a group that made the AFC Championship last year. There's not a lot of job openings on this team. So I would say every single player on the first line of the depth chart is not a surprise. Every single one. Now, the second thing is that Sean Payton's big on burying the rookies on the depth chart. So Jonah Coleman is currently vying with Cody Schrader to be RB5 on the Broncos depth chart. Okay, we know Jonah Coleman is going to be higher up on the depth chart than 5. He's a rookie. Sean Payton's burying him. Same with Tyler Miller is the 4th-string left tackle. Gavin Ortega is the 3rd-string left guard and the 3rd-string right guard, coincidentally. Justin Jolly, Dallin Bentley, Dane Key, Joseph Manjack. I know you haven't heard of any of these people. Dasan McCullough, Red Murdoch. There's a name that you've heard, Mr. Irrelevant. Behind Justin Stranad and Lavelle Bailey at inside linebacker. So it's not surprising that they're where they are because Sean Payton does this. The question is, how many of these younger guys have upward mobility? I think Red Murdoch does. I think it's Justin Stranad's job at one of those inside linebacker spots. But I could see, with everything I've heard about him, he could supplant Lavelle Bailey, potentially. Or Kareem Reed. And be essentially the backup to Alex Singleton. But it's really Murdoch and Coleman feel like the only two rookies that you're looking at with the Denver Broncos and saying, what kind of a role will they have? I think a lot of these guys they're not going to be a lot of rookies on this Broncos roster, I don't think, by the time final cutdowns come in. And then you go one step up, still young players, the ones that are not being artificially deflated by Sean Payton, the ones who are not rookies, second-year players. Jahdae Barron listed as the backup to both Riley Moss and Jaquan McMillan. Savion Jones, Q Robinson, heard a little bit about those two guys. They're third on the depth chart. Former Air Force Falcon Jordan Jackson is above Savion Jones on the depth chart. I think, look, you shouldn't put a ton of stock into this at all. But I do think that you can look and see at least a snapshot of where these guys are. Drew Sanders is a great example. Drew Sanders I know he's been injured, but he's a guy I thought very highly of. And I thought had a path to be one of the starting inside linebackers, and they got him behind Jonathan Cooper and Dondre Tillman. So I think some of these second, third year players, you can look where they're at on the depth chart and maybe make more assumptions than you can with the rookies, because they're going to be buried, all with the understanding that there aren't a lot of starting gigs available on the Denver Broncos, but a few spots that we could see some movement. Pat Bryant and Troy Franklin, been talking about the two of them. Both second on their spots. Troy Franklin behind Marvin Mims, Pat Bryant behind Cortland Sutton. I think that's significant. I said the ceiling for Pat Bryant is maybe he's the eventual replacement for Cortland Sutton. But I think those two are in their own little battle, because I'm not 100% sure they'll both be on the roster when the season rolls around. Inside linebacker, another position that I thought there could be some movement between now and the beginning of the season. And then that defensive end spot, Savion Jones and Jordan Jackson, maybe there's some movement there. And I'll make no bones about it. Big Jordan Jackson guy, so I hope that he hangs on to his spot on the team. Nothing against Savion Jones. But yeah, just this is the life of a contending team. A lot of the spots are spoken for. There's not a lot of guys down on the depth chart that you can get really excited about because they're just not going to be on the field. And they got, the Broncos got a veteran behind a veteran. So I know we love looking at depth charts, but if you're looking for an interesting depth chart, you probably have to look somewhere else other than Denver. Pretty straightforward, pretty obvious, pretty much in every single position. I saw that is a report that Bo Nix is going to play. Working to confirm that. Just this week, by the way. I should, with Bo Nix, I should definitely not pause for a moment for dramatic effect. Bo Nix not going to play week 1 of the preseason against Atlanta. Week 2 and 3, he's scheduled to. I'll dive into that because I have some thoughts, but I want to make sure it's real before I comment. So I'll get on that. In the meantime, I'll take your thoughts. 719-247-1313. Speaking of quarterbacks and youngish quarterbacks, the benching of J.J. McCarthy or the choosing of Kyler Murray to be the starter in Minnesota has reignited an annual debate about quarterbacks' bust potential, who's responsible when a guy becomes a bust. Want to get into that a little bit because I found something interesting in terms of, yes, quarterback busts still exist, but is the NFL doing a better job of mitigating that in more recent years? That's next here on an Extra Sports 1300 KVOR. Welcome in, and thanks for tuning in. Whether you're listening to the show, Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, or maybe you're watching the show as more and more of you are doing every day, anywhere you scroll. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, and Instagram. We put the show live up there each and every day. It's also a handy way to interact with the show because you can simply drop a comment right there on the stream. If you want to reach out via phone or text, I'm all for that as well. The number 719-247-1313. So the big news yesterday in the NFL was that the Vikings are going with Kyler Murray over J.J. McCarthy. And we move quickly as a sporting society, right? So now the B word's being thrown around with J.J. McCarthy that he's a bust. And then it ignites the debate of who's responsible for busts. Is it the player, or is it the coaches, or some other entity? And we have started to, I think, catch up to the idea that when a first-round quarterback is an alleged bust, that blame is shared by a number of different parties. Okay, you can't completely absolve the player in the instance. And they don't even have to be, have the problems that Jamarcus Russell did or Johnny Manziel did for them to have accountability and be part of the reason why they became a bust, because J.J. McCarthy is a good example. I don't think J.J. McCarthy is flat out good enough to be a franchise quarterback. I never believed that. But who should shoulder more of the blame? J.J. McCarthy, all he did was everything Jim Harbaugh told him to do, which was turn around, hand it off, don't turn the ball over, and we're going to win a national championship. So, yes, I have my doubts about J.J. McCarthy as a drop-back NFL franchise quarterback. But why didn't the Vikings see that? Why didn't the Vikings see everything that you and I saw? That there was an entire football game in which J.J. McCarthy in the entire second half did not throw a pass. Like we all felt like we knew it, and yet the Vikings didn't. And they drafted him, and they traded up to get him. Thanks, Sean Payton. So is it J.J. McCarthy's fault that he wasn't equipped to be what the Vikings hoped he would be, or is it on the Vikings for not doing their job? The one guy that I have full confidence did everything he can is Kevin O'Connell. Like, if Kevin O'Connell doesn't get his hands on Sam Darnold, Seattle fans, I don't know what you're doing right now. Maybe you're trying to make it work with Drew Lock. Like, Kevin O'Connell helped rebuild Sam Darnold. I know Shanahan started with that, but then you had the big year in Minnesota for Darnold, and that got him paid in Seattle, and the rest, as they say, is history. I think Kevin O'Connell did everything he could. He just didn't have the quarterback to work with. But I think that the mistake was on the Minnesota Vikings for putting all of this on J.J. McCarthy. If J.J. McCarthy is not drafted in the first round, then he's labeled a developmental pick, and maybe one day he can be a starter. The Vikings drafted him to take over for a proud franchise that is desperate to win a Super Bowl. That was too much, and J.J. McCarthy's not capable of doing that. But I put it more on the Vikings for not realizing it. And that's the realization that we have had as a sporting society over the last few years. Is like, wait a minute. Okay, yes, Johnny Manziel. Yes, Jamarcus Russell. But I mean, how about Robert Griffin III? Was that on what happened? I don't know if Robert Griffin III is technically a bust because when he played, he was quite good. But was that an organization doing everything they could to help Robert Griffin III succeed? I would say absolutely not. So we've gone around, and it can be on a case-to-case basis, but the overall theme here is let's not put all of it on the player because all they're trying to do is their best. These are billion-dollar franchises, multiple billion-dollar franchises with huge scouting staffs and supposedly very smart football people. Smart football coaches, they make mistakes, and that leads to some of these first-round quarterbacks going bust. But I did find something interesting because the whole J.J. McCarthy debate got me thinking, is the NFL any better at this than they used to be? Because I'm looking at J.J. McCarthy's draft class. And even with McCarthy, if you are saying McCarthy's done, right? That's one down. Still have Caleb, still have Jaden Daniels, still have Drake May, still have Bo Nix. I mean, we haven't seen a draft with 4 legitimate franchise quarterbacks since 2018. So it got me thinking, and 2018's not that long ago, right? With Baker, and Baker's been a roller coaster ride, but I think he's capable of being a franchise quarterback. Josh Allen is obviously in another stratosphere. Lamar Jackson. So that's not that long ago. That's within a decade. So my hypothesis was maybe the NFL is doing a little bit better job. Maybe they are understanding what you and I now understand is that organizations are almost equal to the player themselves in creating a bust. So the organizations needed to take more ownership. I looked at it. So 06 to 2015. Okay, there were 26 quarterbacks taken in the first round. Okay, 3 of them became franchise, like bona fide franchise quarterbacks. 3 of them. Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, and Andrew Luck. Right now, 2016 to 2025, we already have 4. You know, the big 4, Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, and Burrow. Multi-year starters. Interesting. Little bit more down than they were a decade, the last decade. There was more of a quarterbacking middle class in the 10 years prior to 2016. And the number of busts have gone down. So 2006 to 2015. Let me find my list here. See if you agree with it. The busts from 06 to 15. Jamarcus Russell, Matt Leinart, Brady Quinn, Jake Locker, Christian Ponder, Brandon Weeden, EJ Manuel, RIP, and Johnny Manziel. Right? All considered busts. 2016 to 2025, we had our old friend Paxton Lynch, Josh Rosen, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Kenny Pickett. And now we have Anthony Richardson, J.J. McCarthy, and Michael Penix, where we're wondering. So it has a chance to potentially match it. But for right now, we have fewer busts than we had before in a decade stretch before. And we have more elite quarterbacks. So the numbers tell me, even though the middle, and it's about the same. It's about the same. You give a little bit of a nod to that 06 to 15 window there. But the middle's staying the same. The number of decent starters, not going to be in anyone's Mike Sando top quarterback tier list, but good. Good starters, tier 2 type guys, right? There's slightly more of those, or fewer of those now. But we have more elite franchise quarterbacks and we have fewer busts. Those numbers tell me that the NFL is doing a better job of developing quarterbacks. And it plays into what I was talking about to start the show in the evolution of Sean Payton. Right? He's turning over play calling duties to a younger, more progressive thinker in Davis Webb. He's taken his team out to go see Spider-Man. He's evolving. He's getting with the times a little bit. Part of the reason is head coaching in the NFL is a young man's game. Every coaching cycle that goes by, it seems like NFL head coaches get younger and younger. And teams are trying to stretch it that way because of these younger thinkers are a little bit more quarterback centric. They can develop these quarterbacks a little bit better. So I think all the signs are there that the NFL is getting better at developing quarterbacks. And I remember one of the things I said a few weeks ago, and when I'm lining up one of the, I think, storylines through this season, I feel like we got to start lopping off some quarterbacks because right now it feels like there are just so many that you would say are good. Smaller number that are great, but there's a lot of good quarterbacks in the league right now, more than I can recall in any other year. And I think this is kind of playing to it, is that the NFL is doing a better job developing these guys, coaching these guys up, setting them up for success. And yes, there's still going to be a chance that a guy won't be able to get it done. But it just feels like the NFL and the coaching and the front offices are holding up their end of the bargain a little bit better. And you look at this 2024 class, I mean, we have a chance for the next decade to have even more elite franchise quarterbacks, right? Daniels, Drake, Caleb, even, maybe not for me, but for others, Bo Nix. Plus what you have coming out of college. And that's the other thing too. And I said it yesterday when I was talking about why didn't the Vikings see this with J.J. McCarthy. In college football is older. These guys are playing more games than they ever have before because if they don't play, they're bouncing and going to another school. They're getting these extra years of eligibility. These guys are coming out more ready for the NFL. So it's not just credit to the NFL. I think it's a little bit of credit to college football in developing these guys. See, there is a positive to the current state of college athletics. The quarterbacking is better. But these guys are playing more games. They're more NFL ready than ever before. And I do believe that they're getting drafted by teams that have a better idea about how to develop quarterbacks, front offices that are a little bit better about drafting the right guy. But of course, you have the next few big tests here. What way are we going to go with Cam Ward? Fernando Mendoza, how are the Raiders going to handle him? That'll be interesting to see moving forward. But yes, J.J. McCarthy exists. Doesn't look good for Michael Penix. And it's not that long ago that we had Trey Lance, Kenny Pickett. So it's not perfect. But the last 10 years in the NFL in terms of quarterback development, I would argue have been better than the 10 years before that. 719-24-7. 13-13. Coming up next, one NFL head coach says the goal this year is for his offense to be as good as the 2013 Denver Broncos. You remember that team well, don't you? I'll tell you which head coach thinks his team has the chance to be like Payton and company next. I want to take you back in time to the year 2013. Think about the football team that you watched clad in orange and blue, specifically the offense. Remember that 2013 Denver Broncos offense led by Peyton Manning? The numbers they put up, the stretch from that season that I remember going, holy crap, this team is a wagon. I believe it was week 4 and 5. They, in back-to-back weeks, hung 50 on the Eagles and Cowboys. Like, they were putting up big numbers early on in the season, 35, 37. And then week 4 and 5 came around and they dropped over 50 on Philly and on Dallas. And it was like, oh my God, this offense is a problem. Now we know how the story ended, but we're not focused on that. During the regular season, Peyton Manning's Broncos set the NFL record for points scored in a season. Well, Ben Johnson, the head coach of the Chicago Bears, says today to The Athletic, it's not just a Super Bowl that I want. I want this offense to break that record. And he believes they can. The Chicago Bears, if you were wondering, last year averaged 25.9 points a game. About 26 points a game last year. That Broncos team that Peyton Manning quarterbacked in 2013 averaged almost 38 a game. So suffice to say that there's going to have to be a little bit of an uptick for the Chicago Bears offense to be able to put up those numbers. Now, as far as can they, I will argue that while the Bears' skill players are younger than the players that Peyton Manning had, so there is a world where Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, once he gets healthy, and the tight ends that Colston Loveland and all those guys, there's a chance that the guys that Caleb Williams throws the ball to can be just as talented as the group that Peyton Manning had overall, right? There was Demaryius Thomas, who you probably put above any receiver that the Chicago Bears have. But in totality, and you're betting on upside, which is what Ben Johnson is doing, right? It's a young offense with the Chicago Bears. But if all of these guys hit, we've already seen from Odunze, if Luther Burden hits, Colston Love, if all of these guys hit and are who Ryan Poles drafted them to be, then Caleb Williams has the pieces around him to be an elite offense. But the key, as you know from watching the 2013 Denver Broncos, the key was not who Peyton Manning was throwing to. It was Peyton Manning. I know we give the quarterbacks too much credit, too much blame. We put everything revolves around them. Tell me that the reason why the Denver Broncos in 2013 averaged 38 points a game was not Peyton Manning, who threw 55 touchdowns. It was Peyton. And one thing that you say about Peyton Manning is, we have this discussion about system quarterbacks. Peyton Manning is the system. Okay, the guy had Adam Gase coaching him. He got Adam Gase a head coaching gig. Adam Gase, you remember Adam Gase, wild-eyed Adam Gase? That 2013 team got Adam Gase a head coaching gig. And we find out that it was not Adam Gase who made that Broncos offense go. It was Peyton Manning. He was the system. So I don't think that Caleb is the system. I can't say that about him. But with Caleb and his skills and the improvement he showed last year, plus Ben Johnson, I do think that you have a special connection between a head coach / play caller and his quarterback. But really, if the Bears are going to do this, okay, and I'll just say this, if they rival that 2013 Denver Broncos team for arguably the greatest offense in NFL history, the Chicago Bears are going to go to the Super Bowl. Right? Or they're going to get very close. I know the super team Rams are waiting, but we're all looking for a reason to not take the Rams. Well, here would be your reason. If you're looking for a reason to say, no, I'm not picking the Rams, a Bears team that averages 39 points a game would be your off-ramp. That would be your license to go, you know what? Not the Rams, them. But that it's really going to come down to Caleb. He's going to have to go from, borderline in my mind, top 10 quarterback in the league. And a lot of it is it's early. He had one garbage year and one great year. Okay, I'm a big proponent of Caleb. I think it's going to be more for his career like last year than it was his rookie year. I fully believe that. But he's going to have to take a jump. And Caleb Williams would be the MVP of the league. And he would be considered with that kind of a season on par with Mahomes, Allen, Burrow. In fact, if Joe Burrow's season is, derailed because of injury, people might take Caleb Williams and put him into Joe Burrow's spot. Or if all these doomsdayers when it comes to Lamar Jackson are correct, then he would take his place. I know year 3 is a big year for quarterbacks. It's when we finally say, okay, this is who this guy is. Now, we're not always right, Sam Darnold, but there are exceptions to every rule. Year 3 is usually when we get the best sense of who a quarterback is and is going to be throughout their career. So if Caleb Williams takes the jump to be one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league, then there's an outside shot. But even as I say all that, I can't see it. It's great to have goals, right? And given where I got to imagine if you're a Bears fan, and I'd love to hear from you at 719-247-1313. I think you love Ben Johnson doing this. How could you not? Given where your franchise has been, Ben Johnson is coming in with some swagger and making bold proclamations about how special this Bears team is. Now, you got to live up to it. His quote today, The Athletic, it's going to be brought back. That is the receipt, and it will be brought back anytime that the Bears struggle offensively. But it will be brought back as well if we're looking at the Bears as a historically great offense. I just don't see it. I felt like, and I hated every minute of it, don't get me wrong, because in that time I wasn't here yet doing this show, so I was free to be a fan. I hated every minute of that 2013 Denver Broncos team. And I may have giggled when the ball went over the head of Peyton Manning. I gasped first. I may have giggled. I don't remember. But it was a different life. I didn't have to be objective. I could be just a fan. But it felt like Like I was following the Beatles on tour. Like it was just like another level. Like I just couldn't even believe what I was watching week in and week out. I can't look at any team and say, yeah, they're going to be able to do that, because it was crazy. And I get it. Records are meant to be broken. We're going more pass happy, more putting up bigger point, all that kind of stuff. I get that that's kind of where things are moving. I just can't put that on any team that I would think, predict, expect them to be as special offensively as the Denver Broncos were in 2013. And by the way, not in that division. Not in that division. You have Micah Parsons, Aiden Hutchinson, and Brian Flores' defense for the bulk of your schedule. Like, I don't want to take away anything from that 2013 Broncos team, but they weren't playing in a division as good as the NFC North. So as much as the game has moved to be more quarterback friendly and the quarterbacks are putting up bigger numbers than we've ever seen, we're also seeing a rise in the pass rusher, and we got some dudes that can get to a quarterback and wreck things. So I don't see it. Not in that division. And Ben Johnson is making a lot of future bets. Not just this season, but I'm saying like on an individual level, like all these guys are so young in their careers. It was a more veteran group that Peyton Manning was leading. Kind of knew the ups and downs were kind of worked out. Like they were who they were and who they were going to be. This Bears team, I see a lot of potential. And if you're a Bears fan, I know you're excited. You should be. But the idea that all this year, Caleb, Loveland, Odunze, Burden, like all of them hit all at the same time, all relatively drafted close together, that's a lot that Ben Johnson is asking for. Love the bravado, love the confidence. I don't see it. But what I do see is an offense that's going to be very good. Like what I'm looking at for the Chicago Bears in 2026, and Ben Johnson knows this very well. Can you be like the Lions 2 years ago? That was not a historically great offense, but in that year, they were elite. They were a wagon. They were putting up big numbers. Like, can you do that? Because last year, by the way, the 25.9 I mentioned, there's only one team that averaged more than 30 a game, and that was the Rams. And Ben Johnson is talking about approaching 40. So how about this? How about the Bears be the best offense in the NFL? Can we have that conversation? In the year 2026, could the Chicago Bears be the best offense in football? And even though you're still making the same bets that all of these young skill position players all hit at the same time, I still think that that's possible. My issue with the Bears is the other side of the football. I think their offense is going to be fantastic. I don't think they're going to be, what was that in points per game? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th. No, they're going to be near the top. And they're going to have to be. That's kind of my whole thing. They're going to have to average over 30 a game. Can the Bears be the best defense, or the best, not the best defense? They can't. I'll answer that question straight away. Can they be the best offense in the NFL this season? Still stiff competition, especially when you look at the Rams. Everyone's focused on the defensive side of the football for the Rams, but don't forget they have Puka for at least most of the season, I think. Vontae Adams, and the Matthew Stafford. I think the Bears can threaten to be the best offense in the NFL. Maybe the best offense that we've had in the last few years. But Call it romanticism, call it nostalgia. I don't know. It's romanticism. I didn't even like that team. But call it what you will. I can't see it. I can't see anybody in the NFL this season being in the same conversation as the 2013 Denver Broncos. I think there are more defenses that can contend with the 2015 Denver Broncos this season in the NFL than teams that can compete with the 2013 offensive Denver Broncos. Take your thoughts, though. Ben Johnson, not just a Super Bowl. And he did mention Super Bowl first, so don't think that Ben Johnson is just looking to put up points. He's saying the Super Bowl is not the only thing I'm going after. And one thing I will say, and I'll give out the number one more time. The Bears at the end of football games already was going to be fascinating, right? Because last year, Caleb pulled multiple rabbits out of multiple hats, the playoffs included. So already you were going to pay extra close attention to the Chicago Bears at the end of football games. But now you have a different reason. If the Bears are comfortably in command, let's say, I think earlier rather than later in the season, because then later in the season, you're thinking about health and all that. Early in the season, Bears up by a couple of tutties. They have the ball. Is Ben Johnson kneeling? Is Ben Johnson running out the clock, or is Ben Johnson trying to get closer to the 2013 Denver Broncos in week 3? I just getting to know Ben Johnson now that he's running a team instead of the offensive coordinator, I would not put it past Ben Johnson to run up the score in some of these games, especially against the Packers. 719-247-1313. Can the 2026 Chicago Bears rival the 2013 Denver Broncos in putting up just galactic Star Wars type numbers? More Drive Time Sports after this. Your chance to get qualified to win 4 season tickets to the Air Force football season is coming up shortly. So stay tuned. Was able to confirm. It didn't actually take me this long. I just wanted to talk about the other stuff. But Bo Nix indeed will not play in the preseason opener on Friday against the Atlanta Falcons. You know what I just thought of and why I said Atlanta Falcons that way? Every time the Broncos and the Falcons are in the same conversation, I think about the episode of The Simpsons, the Super Bowl episode, where they didn't know when they first made it who was going to be in the Super Bowl, so they covered Homer's mouth with a mug and then like dubbed over it. It was, I don't know why. It was hilarious. Like the two Denver Broncos moments in Simpsons are hysterical to me. One, where he covers about the Denver Broncos and the Atlanta Falcons. And then when Robert Scorpio gifts him the Denver Broncos, his dream is to own the Dallas Cowboys, and Homer goes, "Oh, the Denver Broncos." Anyway, where am I? What was I talking about? Oh, Bo Nix not going to play on Friday against the Atlanta Falcons. And it's interesting to me because I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. That's not really my style. I think I'm a pretty level-headed guy most of the time. Not playing him in the preseason on a turf field makes a lot of sense. What I wonder, do we have anything to worry about with Bo Nix on turf fields during the regular season? Like right now, abundance of caution. Most teams don't even play in the preseason. Like, I get it. This isn't a huge deal other than you'll have to wait another week to see Bo Nix for the first time since he beat the Buffalo Bills. But, like, I know Sean Payton's not going to hold him out on turf fields during the regular season, but what I wonder is if, and I have to look, when the first time the Broncos play on a turf field. If I had a crack research staff, I'd be able to do that. It's just me right now. But I will look into that. I'll have it for you by the next time I open this microphone, I will know. But okay, abundance of caution. It's the preseason. This is a smart move. I get it. But is there any level of concern for Bo Nix on turf fields moving forward with the ankle injury? Or is it just because this game means nothing and you got 2 more chances to play Bo Nix? That's what I wonder. And I guess you won't know until, Bo Nix plays on a turf field and you go, oh, that ankle's really messed up. Or you go, you wouldn't even know he had an ankle injury in off-season surgery. So for right now, it's the right call. I get it. I understand it. But we move very fast to catastrophic ankle injury. Bo Nix is predisposed to ankle injuries, to now he can run the ball like he's better. They've rebuilt him better than ever. He's Steve Austin. Right? Like ankle surgery, get out of here with ankle surgery. We don't even acknowledge that ankle surgery even happened. This is Bo Nix. He's better. He's stronger. He's faster. He'll run the ball more. All of this kind of stuff. We took a quick jump from the injury, the surgery, Sean Payton's comments, to now there's nothing to see here. And yesterday I talked about Pat Bryant and other training camp darlings. And I reminded you that coaches are great at manipulation and great at making you see what they want you to see. Right? Visually, they can control a narrative. speaking they can control a narrative. That's how these head coaches are wired. So any concern or any question that might be negative, no. Right? It gets shot down, nonsense, explained away, all that kind of stuff. So I get it. Sean Payton's not the first guy to do this. I'm just following the timeline here, and we took a quantum leap in just a couple of months. And I'm not speaking with any medical background, but I'm speaking from, people were questioning like, oh, Mahomes, I don't know if Mahomes is going to be right week 1. And that's fine. Because I'm looking at this same thing in Kansas City, and I'm going, are we 100% sure that Patrick Mahomes is cool for week 1? We don't want to take a beat. I know it's the Broncos. I know it's Monday night, but like, is he really going to be ready week 1 and be not limited at all? Kansas City's done the same thing. Season torpedoed, season ruined, Patrick Mahomes, oh my God, what's going to happen with him? And now it's like Andy Reid is disavowing any knowledge that Patrick Mahomes was ever hurt. And I wonder the same thing about Bo Nix. Are we right to have zero concern? Is there really nothing to see here? This is just, and I know NFL players are very much against turf fields these days. Like, I understand that, and maybe we'll see teams around the league go, yeah, turf fields, I don't think so. And not even with players with, what Bo Nix has. Just in general, I'm not putting my guys out there in a preseason game on turf. Now, the number of coaches who put any stock in the preseason and care at all about the preseason is dwindling every day. Just to keep a running theme throughout the show, the NFL head coaching position getting younger and younger and younger and more progressive and kind of thinking a different way. Here's another thing. A lot of teams aren't going to be playing their starters. But Sean Payton is one of the few left who puts value in the preseason, who wants his best guys out there. And he's saying that Bo Nix will be out there weeks 2 and 3, but not week 1. So it's going to be hard to see. Is this more of a general feeling about turf? And that's what the decision is being made? Or is it more about what Bo Nix is dealing with? And if it's about what Bo Nix or not is dealing with, but went through, is there any reason for any level of concern moving forward? So it's got to, like, I don't know, alarm bells, but like there's like a beeping in the back of my head. There's like some kind of a noise where I'm like, wait a minute, this might be something. But no Bo Nix on Friday against the Atlanta Falcons. This from the 719. I think their first game is 4th week against San Francisco, artificial turf. Let's see. List of NFL stadiums. They do play the Cowboys this year. Where's that? I need to pull up the Broncos schedule. Okay, so let's just take it there. I mean, I trust you. I'm just saying I would like a more complete picture of how many turf games the Broncos are playing this season. But let's just say, okay, 4th. And San Francisco's turf? See, I didn't even we never paid attention to these things. And then the World Cup happened, and it's all we want to talk about is turf versus grass. But at any rate, players are happy about it because they've been talking about it for years. But let's say it's week 4. That's a month into the season. That's a month and a half away. Right? Month and a half? 7 weeks? Feels like a long time. But it's going to be here before you know it. Again, I don't want to... I don my tinfoil cap enough on this show. I don't want to make a habit of it, but I'll say this. I think it's notable. I think it's interesting that Sean Payton doesn't want to play Bo Nix on a turf field coming off of ankle surgery. I think it's the right call. Like, I'll emphasize that. I think it's the right call, but the mind wanders. It's kind of what I'm getting at here. So no Bo Nix week 1 against the Denver Broncos. But one thing we know, Sean Payton's not worried about Stiddy. Not worried about Stiddy at all. 719-247-1313. Let me give you another number that you should save, stow away on your phone and just to have it, because we're in the midst of qualifying listeners to win 4 season tickets to the upcoming Air Force football season, and that time today has arrived. The 5th caller at 719-715-0740. 719-715-0740. The 5th caller will be our latest qualifier to win the 4 season tickets to the Air Force Falcons. Jim Arthur in the morning on KVOR, myself in the afternoon. We're giving you 2 chances every day to get qualified. We still got more qualifying rounds to go, but today is the latest. Right now, 5th caller, 719-715-0740. Coming up next, we'll reset things with the 3 stories that are driving the show, and got Switchback Soccer tonight as well on Extra Sports 1300. Stay tuned. Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you, whether you're listening on Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, or the streaming apps of those two fine radio stations, which are free to download and free to use. There is another way you can be a part of the show, consume the show on a daily basis, and that is by watching it anywhere you scroll. Want to tidy up one item of business because, man, you guys are flooding the phone lines, and I love it. Love the excitement for Air Force season and love to, sometimes I was talking to my son about this, yesterday. He wants to be in radio, but he looks at it as a way to hone his craft as a stand-up comedian. That's what he ultimately, wants to be. And we were just kind of having a conversation about this, and I said, sometimes in my job, I don't always get the reaction. Some days, if I don't know if you're out there sometimes, and it's awesome to see when you are. And the phone line certainly showed it when we qualified another listener for a chance to win 4 season tickets to the upcoming Air Force football season. Richard is the lucky listener today, but you will have another opportunity tomorrow morning, 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Colorado Springs Morning News, 740 KVOR. And then I will be giving you another opportunity on this show, and we'll do it again Friday, and then we'll do it in the next week. But we're getting closer, getting much, much closer to both college football and professional football season. Speaking of letting me know that you're out there, always love it when I hear from you. 719-247-1313. If you got anything percolating in the sports world that you want to discuss, you could call or text that number, or if you are watching the live stream, you can simply drop a comment right there, and I will get to it. Perhaps you have thoughts on the 3 stories that are driving the show today. All right, story number 1, no Bo on Friday. Sean Payton says that Bo Nix will not play in the Broncos preseason opener against the Atlanta Falcons because turf. Bo Nix coming off of ankle surgery. Doesn't mix. You have a confluence of things here, right? You got a player coming off of ankle surgery, getting ready to play a meaningless game on a turf field. Seems like the right call, even for someone who puts as much stock into the preseason as Sean Payton. And Payton says weeks 2 and 3, Bo Nix will play for the Denver Broncos. But I can't help, and I just got done talking about this, I can't help but, wonder a little bit here. Like, yes, it's a preseason game, and some might argue there's no reason for Bo Nix, ankle surgery or no, to play at all in the preseason. Right? But it's hard to keep your mind from going to, well, wait a minute. We were told that Bo Nix is back better than ever, stronger, faster. He's going to run the ball, a ton and all of this kind of stuff. Okay, I'll take it at face value. Week 1, preseason, turf field, fine. But we did move very quickly from, Bo Nix had a catastrophic ankle injury, one that Sean Payton at least said, but then denied that he said that he was predisposed to. And now, Bo Nix is impervious to any type of injury. So the right call, absolutely, the right call by Sean Payton. But you just wonder, there are turf fields littered sporadically throughout this upcoming Broncos season. Is Bo Nix on turf going to be like a little bit of a thing this year? Especially early on. We'll wait and find out. But for now, if you just take this decision in a vacuum, coming off of ankle surgery, preseason game number 1, which he would only be out there for, a few snaps anyway, makes all the sense in the world. But puts Bo Nix's ankle injury, if it was off the radar, it's back on the radar. Story number 2. Actually, let's stick with Sean Payton, because the second biggest story of the day clearly is that Sean Payton took the Broncos to go watch Spider-Man.
I mentioned it this weekend to a few former players, and they accused me of getting soft. It's not like we changed a practice or anything. We just had a diversion, if you will. So it was good. The experience was good.
If you like this softer side of Sean Payton, maybe don't ask him questions about this, because he seems a little bit irritated by it. Like, I let the players go see Spider-Man one night, and now my entire reputation is tarnished. So if you like this softer side of Sean Payton, the side that's showing emotion, FaceTiming Drew Brees a couple weeks ago, the Sean Payton that's, turning over play calling duties to Davis Webb, giving a young offensive mind an opportunity to kind of drive the car. And now he's taking his players out to go see Spider-Man. If you like this, then probably don't ask about it. Just let it be. Observe. Do not say anything to him, because grumpy Sean Payton is lying right beneath the surface. Why do I bring this up? Doesn't matter that they went and saw Spider-Man. The point is, this is part of a bigger picture that is being painted when it comes to Sean Payton at this stage in his coaching career. Okay, everything is telling you that being an NFL head coach is a young man's game. Okay, the turnover rate for head coaches has never been greater than it is right now. And every cycle, it seems like the head coaches that are getting gigs are younger and younger and younger. And there's reasons for that. 2 primarily. 1, forward-thinking, progressive. They got some new ideas, and teams value that. And second, they relate better to the modern-day NFL or the modern-day athlete. And we see this throughout all of sports, right? Look at all the coaches who looked at the new world of college athletics and said, get me the heck out of here, like Nick Saban did. He liked the power that he was able to exude over his team. He liked that separation. And that's fine, but that's just, you're going to be a dinosaur if you're that type of person. The new wave of head coach, NBA, we're seeing it. Look, JJ Redick with the Lakers. I'm going to talk about the Lakers here momentarily. It felt like JJ Redick was in the NBA 2 days ago, and now he's been the head coach of the Lakers for a couple of years. Coaches across all sports getting younger and younger and younger. It's about progressive thinking. It's about new ideas, but it's also about relating to the players who are getting more and more power, more and more money. They're all CEOs. They all have, egos in that way. And you kind of meet them on their level, bridge the gap a little bit more. The taskmaster, more stick than carrot, it doesn't work as well anymore. And this is Sean Payton, who is one of the older coaches in the NFL, going, well, I don't want to quit, right? I still want to coach, and I still want to be me, right? Because my way works. It worked in New Orleans. It's working in Denver. So how do you do that? You find the opportunities, right? You trust Davis Webb. You like Davis Webb. You think he's going to be good at this job. You might lose him if you don't give him the offensive coordinator gig. And Sean Payton said, okay, you're driving the car, even though his foot's going to be on the break. Sean Payton's will be. And I'll, maybe take the team out for a night to reward them for the hard work they've put in, or just for team bonding, or whatever the case may be. Like, I don't know that Sean Payton did a lot of this stuff earlier, but it's his way to acknowledge the evolution that has to happen. If he wants to stay in this league, he's got to start doing more things like all these younger coaches are doing. I think it's smart. And I think it's resonating with the players. I feel like the players, even though Sean Payton has a little bit of a reputation, you talk to the Broncos players and they love the guy. I think he's trying to balance out the stick and the carrot. It's a positive thing. It's a good thing. The way he's moving. Did not like Spider-Man, though. Not a big fan to begin with, Sean Payton. So, did they want to go see the Odyssey? That would have been more Sean Payton's speed, I would guess. Maybe too long for him. Anyway, story number 3. I mentioned briefly the Lakers. They're the big national story today, as Mark Walter, who just bought the Lakers for $10 billion 10 months ago, has turned around and flipped the Lakers to Josh Kushner, the less famous Kushner brother, and Bob Iger, who used to run Disney. Ever heard of it? Those two have bought the LA Lakers for $12.5 billion. So the Lakers appreciated in value by $2.5 billion. Did I say million? Billion. Let me be clear. Billion. If I misspoke earlier. $10 billion to $12.5 billion. Over 10 months, the Lakers gained $2.5 billion in value, which is crazy. But it also speaks to why so many rich people want professional teams. Because the values keep going up and up and up. So this is not a business that you turn around and flip. You don't short sell it. When you have a chance, if Mark Walter waited a few more years, he could make $10 billion on his investment. The way things are going. So it's like, why would he do this? And now the Lakers seem to be in a little bit of disarray right now when they are entering a very important transition into the Luka era. Well, it's not really on the Lakers. It's more Mark Walter. Why is he selling? Because he's under investigation for fraud. So I don't know the utility of dumping the LA Lakers. I don't know if it's legal fees. I don't know if it's, disconnecting himself with Guggenheim Partners and, trying to sever those ties. So maybe the authorities go easy on him. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is he is under investigation for fraud. And I think this is a byproduct of that. And I don't think that I don't think he's just going to be like, well, I'm keeping the Dodgers. Because why dump the Lakers? Why flip the Lakers and keep the Dodgers? Is it because he believes in Tarek Skubal more than Luka Doncic? I don't think so. I would guess that the Dodgers are not far behind, or him divesting his interest in the Dodgers to some degree. But bottom line here is right now it seems very messy. It gives you a glimpse of what the Lakers were before LeBron arrived. It was almost a decade where, yes, they were talked about a lot, but things seemed, other than LeBron and Jeannie Buss getting a little bit agitated with one another, it seemed like things were pretty chill compared to what they were before LeBron arrived, when the Lakers were a mess. Seem a little messy right now. But you get a visionary like Bob Iger. You get somebody with deep pockets like Josh Kushner. I still feel like the optimism that Lakers fans had when Mark Walter bought the majority stake in the team is still founded in these two. Now, Kushner, private equity, venture capital, that kind of world that he dabbles in, I'd be a little bit, what does that look like? But it does mean he has a lot of money. As if the $12.5 billion price tag doesn't tell you that he has money. And then the Iger thing is cool. And I think the Lakers might be able to do something pretty cool with somebody like Bob Iger owning the team. So long term, I think it's fine. Right now, it's like, what the heck is going on with the Los Angeles Lakers? Again, I think it's more about Mark Walters than it is about the Lakers and any disarray they might be in. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the three stories that are driving the show. That's what you need to know in the sports world today. How about in the financial world? Kind of bridge the gap well, right? The $12.5 billion price tag for the Lakers. That's sports business. Now let's go into strictly business. It's time for Rick's Best Guess, the RBG Report with Rick Stevens of FRS Financial. Rick, what have you got today?
Investors exhaled today on the back of positive inflation data. July CPI figures came in right in line with analyst expectations, which prompted traders to lose some of the rate hike hype that they've been holding on to for a couple of months. With today's focus squarely on the July Consumer Price Index report, investors saw the 0.1% month-over-month increase as a modulation to overall inflation, as our year-over-year number sits at 3.5%. When we look at core CPI, year-over-year numbers sit at 2.5%. Core CPI actually pulls out costs such as food and energy. Your RBG is that tomorrow's PPI and core PPI reports will come in similar, which should lead to no rate hikes before the midterm elections.
Thanks, Rick. That's Rick Stevens of FRS Financial Group right here in Colorado Springs. Start planning your future today at frsfinancialgroup.com.
Products and investment services offered through LPL Financial, LLC. Member FINRA SIPC. FRS Financial Group is a name used by independent advisors associated with LPL Financial, LLC.
Coming up next, one of the more divisive athletes currently in the sports world is not in the sports world anymore. He retired. I'll tell you who it is next. There's a little discrepancy here on the just because I think that we didn't care. I mean, we cared in the old vet in Philly because that surface was terrible. The Astrodome, obviously the term turf has changed a little bit. Turf now isn't what turf used to be, and the Jets and Giants stadium is the main culprit. That's what all the NFL players hate, is that stadium. But Bo Nix not playing preseason game number uno because Atlanta has turf, coming off of the ankle injury, all that kind of stuff that I was talking about earlier. In my research, I got 3 turf games for the Broncos this year. I am being told adamantly by the internet that San Francisco does not have turf. And that was, I think somebody saw that. You know, here's the problem. You know, we still have yet to get the internet to be a truth teller in all things, right? Still haven't locked that down. I got them week 5 Chargers game. And then late in the season, Gillette against the Patriots, and then they play the Jets. So I got them as 3, with the first one being week 5. So is this concern over Bo Nix playing on turf? Is it just confined to meaningless preseason games? And if this were a regular season game, then he'd absolutely be playing and they wouldn't worry about it at all. Or week 5, are we going to be going, okay, here's the first turf game for Bo Nix. Let's see how it goes here. So that's what I was able to surmise. Not only will the Broncos be playing on grass, they'll be playing on better grass as the season goes on. Bo Nix's ankle is going to be cradled like a baby at Empower Field because Greg Penner will resod the field or put down new grass maybe every week that the Broncos play, just to cradle Bo Nix's precious ankle. I mean, he already changes it out late in the season. By the way, on that, some conflicting reporting. You know, Damani Leach, the team president, came out and was talking about the new stadium. And what got me thinking about it is that Greg Penner said that they want to be able to have grass. So as far as the roof is concerned, they want to be able to have a grass field still at the new stadium. Well, Damani Leach said that they were considering using personal seat licenses as a precursor to season tickets. Basically meaning, if you're not familiar, it's you have to buy your way in to be able to buy season tickets. You're buying, I mean, just the way I said that, which I think is accurate, I'm not misspeaking. Doesn't it sound ridiculous? I'm going to pay money to then pay more money. That drew the ire of many people because it's like, come on, Broncos have been selling out games since I was a baby. You know, Colorado loves football. Denver is a football city, like all that kind of stuff. Like there's no worry that the Broncos aren't going to have enough season ticket holders to justify building a new stadium. It'll be fine, and those season ticket holders will expect to pay more. And they will happily pay it. Most of them will, I would imagine. But the PSLs thing, it's like now, to me, it's become the rich guy's way to get around asking for public money. And it is a better way to go about it, if I'm being honest, because the whole thing with the raising taxes is, even though if I were to encounter someone on the street that did not like football, I would look at them like they had three heads. Like, how is that possible? How do you not, build your whole life around the NFL season? But at any rate, maybe I'm the problem. There are people who pay taxes that don't care about football. So you're asking them to pay more for something they will never visit and see no benefit in, right? So now we have the rise of personal seat licenses, which is like, we're actually going to subsidize part of the cost of our stadium, but we're going to do it through the people who we know are willing to pay us. So to me, it's not that much different than asking for public funding. And I think a lot of people read it that way. And so they were not happy to hear such a thing, that the Broncos were considering it. Greg Penner came out, perhaps damage control, perhaps Damani Leach was misspeaking, but Greg Penner says they have not had that conversation yet on whether they will require personal seat licenses for the new stadium. Believe what you want, but know that the Broncos still have some hurdles to clear before they even get their stadium, let alone how they're going to finance it and everything like that. City of Denver apparently is playing some hardball with them. So went from grass to that. But Bo Nix, turf, I think by week 5, like that first week that he's playing on turf, it's going to be a conversation. And me being a person that can influence the conversation, especially on this radio show, on these 2 radio stations, and on various social media platforms, I will talk about it, especially if, Bo Nix tweaks the ankle between now and week 5. It's going to be a conversation. You're going to be wondering how he's going to play on turf, how he's going to move on turf with that surgically repaired ankle. I don't know the statute of limitations here. Are you truly fully recovered by week 5, week 7, week 10? I don't know. But that game's going to have a little bit more interest, not just because it's the Chargers, which is significant, but also because of Bo Nix's ankle. Couple of things from Brett. Says the World Cup required all U.S. games to be played on grass. That included all interior domes. If they can do it, we can do it. And I will 1,000% agree with you. I do not buy for a second that this is not possible. Now, what I will say is, let's keep in mind that the World Cup was during the summer, and we are talking about a different season. But does that mean it's impossible? No, it's not. But is it more difficult? And by more difficult, do I actually mean more expensive? Yes. I believe that. But I am not the type of person to, feel bad for a billionaire that doesn't want to put in grass because it would be, too expensive. But you're right. They could do it. I refuse to believe that it's impossible to have grass. But some owners are going to have to, especially the one in the tri-state area, is the 2, and there's 2 owners. What am I even worried about MetLife for? They got 2 owners to chip in. Go halvesies on the turf or on the grass. Yeah, it absolutely can be done in every NFL city. It's just for some NFL cities, they're going to have to be, adding some expense to be able to maintain it or replace it. I don't know. The Dallas Cowboys just got valued at $15 billion. If you don't have enough money to be able to put your players on grass, then why don't you just sell the team? Because I'm sure there are people who would be willing to pay a pretty penny for your NFL franchise. Brett's freaked out that we agree with one another. You can agree. I'm sure Mikhail Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan agreed on something. Not saying we're them. I watched the Tetris movie the other night, so Mikhail Gorbachev is somewhere in my head. People can agree, even if they disagree a lot. And you're even suggesting to go halvesies on the LA Dodgers. Ryan, let's get ahead of the game. I'll help you buy the LA Dodgers. You put in $50 billion and I'll put in $180 and we'll go 50-50. That seems fair. I have to admit something here. I did mess up here because full transparency, I was the next highest bidder for the LA Lakers. I was the second highest bidder. I got beat out by Bob Iger and Jared Kushner. I don't think I understood the rules correctly. I bid $1. I saw their bid and I went, nope, that's too high, $1. I don't think I got that right. So maybe I'll learn my lesson, and for the next LA franchise that gets hastily put on the market, I'll learn my lesson there. Could have had the Lakers. What a missed opportunity. 719-247-1313. Told you about one of the more divisive athletes calling it a career. You know him because he played in the state of Colorado not that long ago. Get to that next. Russell Westbrook has called it a career. Man, we are losing Russes left and right. First Russell Wilson, now Russell Westbrook. Calling it a career with a very weird video that Michael B. Jordan narrated and asked questions that have no answers to it. I probably should have played some of it on the show. I'm derelict in my duty doing that. And for that, I apologize. But run to your favorite local social media platform and you'll be able to find it. It is very Russell Westbrook, especially when you consider that his calling card in every stop he's been to, including Denver, was the first sign of the end was him refusing to speak to the media. So fitting way for Russell Westbrook to go out with no words, at least not his own words, but Michael B. Jordan's words. Russell Westbrook, I think it reminds me a lot of Dennis Rodman in this way. I think we have to admit that we got a little distracted with the other stuff and didn't focus as much on the player. And what I mean by that, like, I know Russell Westbrook didn't wear a dress or dye his hair or, all that kind of stuff. But we got caught up in the stuff that we didn't like about Russell Westbrook. People in the 90s got caught up on the things they didn't like about Dennis Rodman, and it detracted from the appreciation of a player that just was relentless. And you saw in like the Last Dance documentary when Dennis Rodman, he's like a rebounding savant. He's talking about where the ball bounces and he knows where to go. It's like, I don't think we had, and look, it's partly their fault, right? Like Dennis Rodman was the one that wanted to do all of that other stuff. So I guess, he can't be surprised that some people are like, I can't see past the hair dye and the piercings and the dress and all that kind of stuff. And kicking cameramen in the groin to focus on you as a basketball player. Russell Westbrook doesn't do, that kind of stuff that Dennis Rodman did. But I feel like we're with Russell Westbrook, even though this guy's an MVP, he was the first NBA player in forever to average a triple-double, a feat that we didn't think was even possible post Oscar Robertson. But we focused on, him being curt with, the media and, him getting into it. Remember when he got into it with a Nuggets fan in a game? Like, we focused on that stuff. And again, that's partly Russell Westbrook's fault. I mean, let's be fair here. You want us to focus on the game you had. Don't start yelling at a fan. But we got caught up on that and then didn't, I think, fully acknowledge or appreciate the player that he was. And now that's starting to happen, right? With all the other antics being put to the side because he's not playing anymore. Now you just look at the numbers and you start to remember what Russell Westbrook did. I mean, no doubt Hall of Famer. That's not even a conversation. But like Dennis Rodman, he was just relentless. In an era, by the way, that we're living through load management and Kawhi Leonard's playing, 30 games and Joel Embiid's playing 18 games a year and second night of a back-to-back, don't expect to see your favorite player. I appreciate that Russell Westbrook was 100 miles an hour all the time, every single night. And I got to tell you, given where the Nuggets are right now, I kind of miss the guy. At the time, he stopped speaking to the media. He had that catastrophic stretch at the end of his Denver Nuggets tenure where he, blew a layup in a game, turnover, like he just cost the Nuggets like 2 games right at the end of the season. It refused to speak to the media, which just compounded it. It didn't end well. And at the time, I said that the Nuggets just can't afford a high variance player like that. Like, I love it when Russell Westbrook, when it's good, Russ, right? And I always appreciated his effort, but like sometimes that would manifest itself into disaster, like it did at the end of his Nuggets tenure. But like when Russ can be very good, but Russ can also cost you games. And where the Nuggets were at the time, I said, it really don't want a player like that. You don't want to put the ball in the hands of a high variance player like that when you're trying to win a championship. Now, a year later, it's like the Nuggets, like they could use Russell Westbrook's upside with the downside. Like, I think it would be okay because you're getting upside. Like, look at what the Denver Nuggets are bringing in, and you're like, this roster has zero upside. I take a little bit of good Russ on a few nights. So I gotta say, I think the Nuggets missed him, and I think they're going to miss him. I think they could use him. But we do that with many athletes, don't we? We do tend to focus on the faults, the shortcomings, and not appreciate it. But it's in our defense. Our lives are moving so fast. Like, we're trying to be in the moment, present, and what have you done for me lately? And we're focused on what was going on in Denver, and towards the end, it was not good. Flat out. But I would take Russell Westbrook over half of the Nuggets roster at this point. But that can't happen because he's retired. So, controversial in some ways. But, man, did he give maximum effort at all times. Gotta say that about him. I think that's his legacy. In addition to the averaging a triple-double for the first time in forever. So Russell Westbrook calling it a career. Tonight, coming up at 6:30 with a kickoff of 7 o'clock, the Switchbacks are going to be taking on Spokane Velocity in the quarterfinals of the USL Cup. So this team a couple wins away from playing for a trophy, which is one of the unique things that soccer gives you, is these chances to go on these like side quests to win trophies. But I think that there's a bigger story at play here. Alan McCann was today announced as the USL Championship Coach of the Month for the month of July. Switchbacks went a perfect 4-0, dominated, looked great in the month of July. Second time this season that Alan McCann has won Coach of the Year, or a Coach of the Month. Hopefully he wins Coach of the Year, but Coach of the Month, he's won it a couple of times. And I think in that it shows what the ceiling is of this Switchbacks team. Like, they can get hot, they can rack up wins, they can dominate opponents, they could be in stretches one of the best teams in the league. What has been a conversation, in the conversations I've had with Alan, it's the consistency. It's the doing it every week, repeating it. And he thought in July that was happening. Well, now here we are 2 weeks into August, and the Switchbacks have back-to-back losses. And now it's a little bit of a race against the clock to make sure that you're the team that we saw in July and April in October. Because if that is the case, I truly believe this. Switchbacks can play for another title. Like, I've seen it. I've seen what they can be at their best. But right now, it's a bit of a roller coaster. And so tonight, yes, it's about playing for another trophy. I do expect Allen to rotate the squad a little bit. They got a really busy month of August, so I think there are going to be some guys getting spot starts. But this is a team that I think needs to get their mojo back quickly. They don't want to go deeper into the month of August without getting back on the winning side of things. And I don't care whether that's the USL Championship, USL Cup, Open Cup, whatever it is. This team needs a win, because every week that goes by, we're late. It's not early in the season anymore. So even though this doesn't count towards the grand prize, so to speak, I think this is a team that needs to come out, execute, and get a win. And then on the weekend, they're going to be hosting Birmingham Legion, and then you hope that they're able to carry some of those habits, execution level, into that match that will count towards the league. So not just because it's a quarterfinal of a tournament. I mean, you ran roughshod through the group stage. Like, you didn't do all that just to bow out in the quarterfinals. So there's a desire to win. And Alan McCann's, mission statement, they want to win everything. So they're in Spokane looking to win and advance in this tournament. And that's great. But there's also a bigger picture here with the Switchbacks, which is they can't delay. They got to get back. Whatever they lost in the last couple of weeks, whatever they didn't do the last couple of weeks that they did in July, they got to find it. They got to get it back. Because you keep waiting, and then all of a sudden, here's the playoffs, and it's one and done, and you got to be at your best at that time. If the Switchbacks are at their best, I'll take them to go toe-to-toe with anyone in this league. I really will. And you can say, oh, you're the play-by-play guy. Like, I'm telling you. I'm not the only one that has that opinion. But you got to see it consistently. And you saw it consistently in July, August. You haven't seen it yet. Chance to get back to it tonight. Get back to that standard that the Switchbacks had through the month of July. So that's coming up 7 o'clock tonight. Hope you can join Roland and myself on Extra Sports 1300 or the Extra Sports 1300 app if you would prefer to listen that way. Do also put things closer to me. Everything is out of my water, my phone. Everything is like 50 feet away from me. Do want to tell you about my good friends at Game Day Men's Health. These guys are awesome. About 2 months now, I've been working with them. And one thing that I've learned is that there could be things going on with you that have not even presented to be a problem. Like, you're not noticing maybe that you're dragging in the afternoon. You're not noticing a drop off in your gains in the gym, whatever it might be. You're like, I don't think anything wrong. Still, when you cross the threshold of 40, there's stuff going on internally that you have no control over that may be going on. And if you could catch it early, then you can get back to feeling your best, or just optimize. Like, that's kind of been what I've been trying to do. What in my life can I optimize? And that's where Game Day Men's Health has helped me out a lot with recently. And they can help you too in a variety of different areas. Men's sexual health, weight loss, testosterone replacement therapy, other wellness treatments. They do it all, and they're great. And it's a great staff, and they don't push anything on you, right? They really listen to what's going on with you. They run their tests and say, legitimately, this is what we think could benefit you. So GameDayMen'sHealth.com, schedule your consultation. You'll be glad you did. They got a Broadmoor location, soon to be in Northgate, but right now it's a Broadmoor location, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Appreciate your patronage. Again, we'll separate for about 30 minutes, and then we'll reconvene at the bottom of the hour for Switchback Soccer. How about that?